Hello, I'm Callum Miles for Frankly Speaking, and I wanted to put together a little video to help you learn how to debate better. One of the biggest bits of feedback we've got from our latest Convince Me Otherwise, which you can find on our Rumble if you still haven't watched it, which is Frankly Speaking Politics, was that a lot of people were amazed at how I managed to keep composed and didn't rise to any personal attacks when debating members of the public. So, first and foremost, be polite, no matter what. It doesn't matter who you're debating, if you stay polite, by and large, you will win the argument. A lot of people, when they're debating, are debating not just the person in front of them, but all those people around. And what those people will see is one person being very polite, calm, level-headed, more importantly, looking like they know what they're saying and know what they're doing, whereas they might see someone being erratic and irrational. At the end of the day, people don't react well to that. Secondly, be inquisitive. Go into it with an open mind, with the ability to have your mind changed. How can you expect somebody else to change their mind if you're not willing to have yours changed? Thirdly, have some stats ready. Ideally, have some sources too. Because at the end of the day, when you put out some information, for example, people were saying, this virus is so deadly, why shouldn't children have it? Well, I said, well, according to the ONS statistics, at the time of this debate, only 47 children aged 19 and under in England have died with coronavirus on the death certificate, only 9 of which didn't have a comorbidity. Now that, to them, and anyone else watching, is hearsay. It's educated hearsay. I might say it so convincingly they believe it, but ultimately, until they can prove it for themselves, it is hearsay. So if I can cite some sources, for example, tell them, go check on the ONS website. They can go and look at things once this debate is over. Fourth point, following on from the having some statistics ready, don't feel the need to prove yourself. At the end of the day, you don't want people to take just anyone's word for it, and that includes yourself. Ideally, you want people to go home after your debate and look into things themselves. So encourage them where they could look some information up. Fifth point, prep for follow-up FAQs. If you don't know what FAQs are, that's frequently asked questions. So when you go into a debate with a title, you could probably get the idea of some follow-up questions people might ask. So for example, a lot of people, when I say no child should receive the COVID vaccine, convince me otherwise, a lot of people would say, oh, but you know, these vaccines are working, why don't you think they should? Well, I could then go into something along the lines of the dictionary definition, something that I've prepped in anticipation of them with the follow-up FAQs. The sixth point, but I think it's actually one of the most important ones, start in the shallow end. Not many people, if you throw them in the deep end, can swim. At the end of the day, you are trying to bring people over from another side. So if you are quite far on one side, and you try to bring people straight to you, that's too much. If they're over here, you've done well if you bring them to here. So start in the shallow end. Don't start talking about things that, you know, you might have the proof and you might know are not conspiracy theories. But ultimately, if you sound crazy, you look crazy, people will think you're crazy. Perception is everything. So start in the shallow end. Keep things simple. For example, ask why in 18 months there's been less than 2% of the world that have died with coronavirus. That's a statistic that will be readily available and they can look up there and then. But if you start talking about the Rockefellers and Bill Gates, you're going to lose that person. So always start in the shallow end. You are possibly their first step on this journey to maybe a great awakening. So yes, keep it light, keep it shallow, keep it easy and understandable, and more importantly, keep it believable. Next point, separate yourself from it personally. At the end of the day, these are your ideas, they aren't you, and if somebody attacks you personally, as the great Margaret Thatcher once said, it means they haven't got a single political argument left. So if they attack you personally for your views, well, quite frankly, the chances are you've beaten them. And more importantly, people are watching will see you've beaten them, and you might have convinced other people your point of view. But if you then rise to that and then return the insults, you both lose. One of the things a lot of people always say they hate when the general elections comes around, they have the live TV debate, is that it was just squabbling and bickering. But if you listen to them and you don't rise to any personal insults, you will most likely win. Or at least you will leave it with your head held high. For my next point, and this is one of my favourite ones, always go in with the intentions to leave them thinking long after the debate has done. If that night, once you've had your debate, before they close their eyes and go to sleep, they think about something you said, the chances are you had a positive impact. And ultimately, that's what you want to do. You want to leave people thinking long after. You want to get people thinking again. So yes, always go in with the intentions to leave them thinking after. One of the things a lot of people often do wrong in debates, they go in things with black and white proof. They often say there's 3 versions of the truth. Your truth, my truth, and the truth. Unless you can prove something with black and white evidence there and then, do not expect people to take it as gospel. If anything, encourage them not to take it as gospel, but to go and look it up themselves. As I just said in the previous point, you want people to be thinking long after the debate is done. So don't expect people to take your word as gospel. My penultimate point, always listen. If you don't listen, you can't expect them to listen. If you don't listen, you won't really know what to say afterwards. You'll just be sticking with a script that you might already have. You hear it a lot in some debates where people just say that person wasn't even listening, they were just sticking to what they know or what they believe. But if you listen, you can try and maybe find ways around it. And again, it ultimately it's that bigger picture that I keep mentioning. You're debating with everyone around you, not just the person you're directly speaking to. Last but not least, and this is by far the most important point, always be polite, no matter what. One person can win an argument, but 2 people can lose an argument. You can't both win, but you can both lose. If you both look like petulant children, everyone will think you're petulant children. No one will take your word for granted, no one will give you any respect, and no one will see anything you have to say as credible. So always be polite no matter what. Don't rise to any personal attacks. Keep it civil. And at the end of the debate, if you can hold your head high, you've done your job. If you have any questions, please feel free to get in the comments and let me know. Hope this helps.